All right, 10 a.m. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this class. My name's Kyle Sigler. I'm sales manager with Western Title. So just make sure you're in the right place. This is our new rules and reporting for the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, shortened to FinCEN. Specifically, we're trying to make sure that we're giving more information on the commercial side as well, since you will be most likely dealing with it quite often. So some of the things we'll be going through is why are we here? Why is there now a rule? What type of properties will be required to report, what kind of exemptions there might be, who is responsible for the reporting, what information is required. And we have Aaron Schiller with us today from our corporate group, FNF. So Aaron Schiller is our Vice President, Western Region Training Director for Fidelity National Financial. She's been in the real estate industry for 38 years. Her passion is to educate real estate and title on timely and relevant topics. She was born in Oregon, grew up here until she was 13, and then moved to Northern Nevada in the Reno Tahoe area. Her husband, daughter, and dog travel to the Oregon coast every year in their motorhome to visit the coastline and visit her family throughout the Oregon state. So please join me in welcoming Aaron Schiller.
Oh, thanks, Kyle. Thank you, everyone. So glad to do this again with you. I love my family of companies, and I'm so pleased. Yes, I am a fourth generation Oregonian. So I was looking back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had fourth generation in Oregon. So we love visiting there. It's our happy place. So. Thank you. Hopefully this won't be virtual anymore, but actually physical. So thank you, everyone. Just a little background. I will share with you. I know this is very a little more commercial focused. So prior to the title industry, I actually was in commercial. I did land acquisition and development for a company called Security Capital, which is now Prologis. So I'm kind of very much in the commercial space. I'm in the title side as well. So I'm kind of thinking and going to be sharing with you from a real estate and commercial real estate perspective on this new regulation. And hopefully this is going to be valuable to you and your business, but also we need your assistance in educating everyone out there about what this new regulation is. So first of all, it's called the Anti-Money Laundering Regulation for Residential Real Estate Transfers. This regulation is not a regulation brought upon by the title companies. This is a regulation that the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network is requiring the title and escrow companies to be reporting any transactions wherein it's a cash buyer purchasing in their LLC trust and entity. And again, cash buyer wherein they are purchasing in their trust, LLC, or entity. And this, I want to make it very clear too that this is not something that our company or any of the title companies want to be doing. This has been forced on us as a requirement now, and it will be effective March 1st, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I do want to talk a little bit about some statistics, and I was pulling some information about the United States. There's 25% in 2025, 25% were cash purchases. So 3 in 10 properties were cash transactions. And this is where especially in the commercial sector, we know that a lot of times, you've got LLCs, trust or entities that are purchasing commercial properties. And a lot of times they're either paying cash or they're getting a loan through the bank. So any transaction, and I'm going to make this clear too, any transaction wherein your buyer is purchasing through an institutional lender, this would be exempt. Okay, so this is only cash only purchases wherein your cash buyer is purchasing in their LLC trust or entity. So I'm going to kind of go over a couple things. So again, the whole thing that I want to share with you is if your commercial client is an individual and they're purchasing, they are exempt if they're purchasing cash. But this is only if They are wanting to record a document. So I kind of had to break this down because I was thinking the other day, I'm a very visual person, and I was like, okay, title companies record what we call a grant deed or grant bargain and sale deed, right? So it's seller conveying to buyer. And if on that document it is saying this is ABC LLC or ABC Trust, the, the whole purpose of this new regulation is to uncover the individuals that are hiding behind the LLC and trusted entities. And I'm going to repeat myself a few times on that because that's the whole purpose of this new regulation. I'm also going to make this really clear here too. Every single title escrow company will have to report in all 50 states throughout the United States, everyone. So this is not a Western title and escrow thing or other title company thing. This is not a title company regulation. This is a federal regulation that is across the United States now, all 50 states, and it will be effective March 1st. So the next thing is, why are we here? So the whole purpose of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network is to stop money laundering. And what they found, and if you go into the history, what they found is that these illicit actors have been using transactions and real estate to hide behind and money laundering, organized crime. They're using it for drug trafficking. They're using it for sex trafficking, human trafficking, all organized crime, using properties as a way to hide behind it. And so they're trying again to uncover the individuals that are hiding behind the entities. And again, like I mentioned, on a deed, again, if they are wanting to record in their LLC trust or entity, we're going to have to report it on the commercial and residential. The thing that I think all of us would agree is right now with everything going on in our world, everybody is a little prickly, and I'm going to use prickly because I like that word. So everyone is going to be having to give us information that might be private, personal. They're going to be pushing back on our escrow officers. And what I ask of you all today is that we support our escrow staff, we support our companies out there that are going to be asking the client for this information. And we're going to get into all those slides of what information we're going to be requiring, but we just need your assistance. And that's why we're trying to get the word out so that it's less pressure and less stress and less prickliness as we ask these questions when you open a transaction with our company. So why is there now a rule, again, in the effort of combating money laundering, they have officially said March 1st is the time where any transactions closing March 1st or going forward will be under this new regulation. So if you have opened a commercial transactions in the last couple months, we probably have been starting to gather that information from your client. So again, one thing I will say that we are so lucky because could you imagine this regulation was supposed to be December 1st. So with the efforts of ALTA, the American Land Title Association, and our parent company, and many others, we were able to postpone it to March 1. And again, this can is not getting kicked down the road again. I've been asked this as I've taught many classes throughout the Western region, and people are like, "Oh, are you going to get it postponed again?" No, it's coming, and we have to prepare. We need to start educating everyone, all of our investors, new home developers, commercial, residential, everyone, so that we don't get so much pushback when we're asking for these questions. Because again, we didn't want this. This has been forced upon us to be the reporting people. So again, I will say this new regulation is going to be very fluid. We're going to see some changing throughout the next few months. And the reason I say that is, FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, is not in the business of real estate. But they are a regulatory agency. And so they're not in the business of real estate. So as we are getting more information from them, uh, it could be very fluid. Some things could change. What I say today could change tomorrow. We don't know, but we are trying to work with FinCEN to try and get more information from them so that we can make it a really, really smooth transactions for your clients. So again, who's enforcing it? The title escrow companies are not the enforcers. I want to make that clear. We're just the reporting people. Okay. We're just reporting the information. We're the collector of the information, and then we provide it to FinCEN, and whatever they do with that information. But we're not the enforcing party. And I want to make that clear because that's where we need to make sure that we tell the clients out there that we're not the ones that are enforcing it, that FinCEN's enforcing it. So make sure that you share that with your client, that we're just reporting, we're just collecting the information, and then we will be providing that to FinCEN after we close the transaction. So next slide. So what properties are to be reported? So I'm going to make this kind of simple. The only properties that are exempt from this reporting is office, retail, and industrial. And the reason why is you don't have persons or families living in those properties, do you? So again, cash transactions, wherein your client is buying in a trust, LLC, or entity. Property is non-financed. However, if the client is buying cash, but possibly doing seller financing or private financing, they will have to be reported. So if you have a commercial developer, or you have someone, a commercial client that might be getting some private financing, we're going to have to report that. They also financed transactions by institutional lenders are already bound by what they call the SARS report. So if your client is going through an institutional lender, again, that would be exempt. But if they are going through and paying cash, but using a private financing or seller financing, we will need to report. The other thing we notice is there's a lot of lenders that may secure a lien against the property being transferred. But if it's a mass credit line where it doesn't secure a lien, it will need to be reported. So it has to be liened and showing a public record. If it's just a mass credit line, we're going to have to report that. On the commercial properties that are, again, the office, retail, and industrial are exempt. But apartment buildings, this is where it gets into the commercial space, because I have a lot of clients that purchase apartment buildings, maybe mixed use, commercial with residential in it. Maybe they purchase senior homes, things like that. The thing you have to think, are there people going to be living in those buildings? So yes, they will need to be reported. So the other one is manufactured homes. This has been brought up. I have a client who purchases manufactured or actually mobile home parks. Again, mobile home parks, you're not purchasing the land underneath, you're leasing or renting the land. So if they're purchasing a whole entire park and paying cash, yes. But individually, if someone is purchasing a manufactured home, but it's not converted to real property, they would be exempt. So it has to be converted for it to be reported. But if it's personal property, then definitely, that would be an exempt property. So the definition, this is FinCEN. So at the bottom, I have the source. This is an actual FinCEN fact sheet. And Kyle and his team will be able to get you all copies of this. It is public information that you can download as well. But the rule applies only to residential real properties located in the United States. Reportable properties include single-family homes, townhomes, condominiums, cooperatives, including condominiums and cooperatives in large buildings containing many such units as well as the entire apartment buildings designed for the occupancy of 1 to 4 families. Now, I've seen where people have said 1 to 4 single family residents. We're not talking about single family residences. We're not talking about just residential. We're talking about families. Are there people living in the building? So that is the whole key, is they're looking at if their family's in there and your commercial client is purchasing properties where people are going to be living, then yes, they will have to be reported. The rule also requires reporting on transfers of land, such as vacant or unimproved land, on which the transferee intends to build a structure. So vacant property. So I do have some commercial clients in my area that purchase vacant land, and their intent, okay, is to build an apartment complex, or their intent is to build maybe a duplex, triplex, or the intent is they're going to build multiple homes like new home developers. If their intent is to build a structure or structures that are going to have 1 to 4 families living in it, then they will have to be reported. If they are purchasing vacant land and they're just going to have, it's an agricultural type thing, and they're just going to have their horses and cows and everything, that's different. That would be exempt because, again, that's not vacant land where people are going to be residing. So on the new home developers, if you're representing a new home developer and they're not publicly traded on the stock exchange, then they will have to be reported if they're paying cash in their LLC trust or entity, a vacant lot or vacant land to build. What's their intent to build? One of the questions I get is if you have a new home developer that you work with and they're purchasing this vacant land, can we just save the information and then import it into the collection? No. It has to be reported every single time they do their individual purchases. So we can't just swap out the information and put it in the collection. We have to do it each time with the client. And so we have to make that clear because a lot of times we're keeping their documents, we're keeping their information. So again, vacant land is the intent to build a home or homes on the land, apartment building or mixed use. This is where we just have to remember they have to be forthcoming. They have to be honest. And we'll talk about the ramifications if they're not honest later in the next slide. So definition of non-financed transfer. The transfer to be reportable and must be non-financed, meaning that it does not involve an extension of credit to all transferees that is both secured by the transferred property and extended by a financial institution subject to AML, which is the anti-money laundering regulation, and suspicious activity. So lenders already are submitting the SARS reports. So that's why they are excluded and exempt from that. Transfers that are financed only by a lender without an obligation to maintain an AML program and file SARS, such as non-bank private lender, are treated as non-finance transfers that potentially must be reported. So right there is if they're just doing like a mass credit line, but they're not recording an actual lien against the property or deed of trust, then they will have to be reported. And sometimes we see that they'll give them a mass credit line. Next is the definition of the transferee entity and trust. The transfer of the residential real property must be reported if at least one of the new owners of the residential property entity or trust. These categories include legal vehicles commonly known as limited liability corporations, partnerships, and trusts. So I've had this question, what if it's an S corporation? What if it's this corporation? It doesn't matter what kind of LLC or corporation your company you're representing has. They will have to be reported if they're paying cash. Again, if they're paying cash and they're paying cash as an LLC trust or entity. One of the things that I will say that would be very helpful is in the commercial and residential world, we have some kind of disclosure in place when you are meeting with your client at the beginning and going through the contracts, because we definitely need to make sure that they are aware of this new regulation so we're not getting the pushback when we're sending out the information to them to gather and collect that data. And the other thing I'll share with you is that there is something that is, and this will be in your fact sheet that we send off to you, is attorneys need to know about this. So I was talking to someone the other day that does a lot of commercial transactions on the, and he's an attorney in town, and he's like, I did not know about this. Uh, so if the attorney is involved in any recording of a transfer, then they're going to have to be responsible to report as well. We have a lot of our companies that are on the East Coast where we have abstract and we have attorneys that do a lot of the settlement services, but they will have to be responsible too. There's a thing in the FinCEN fact sheet that's called the cascade. And so you have to look at what that cascade of responsible parties are. In the residential commercial, most of the time it's our escrow officers that are responsible to report, and our company is responsible to report, but it could be a possibility that an attorney is going to be responsible, or a deed service is going to be responsible to report. What's the exemptions from reporting? Exemptions are a transfer of an easement, transferring resulting of the death of an individual, whether pursuant to the terms of its will or trust, or any contractual provision. A transfer incident of divorce, dissolution, bankruptcy estate, any supervised court transfer, a transfer made with no consideration of an individual, maybe someone is deeding off or spouse or whatever, a transfer where there's no reporting person. But the one area that I wanted to really kind of emphasize is 1031 exchanges are exempt. So I know that we have a lot of commercial transactions out there that are done through 1031 exchanges. So if they go through a 1031 exchange company, they're exempt. So that's something to think about. But again, 1031 exchanges already are submitting the SARS report, which is a suspicious activity report. So they have to anyway. But this is kind of would alleviate a little bit if they were to do any 1031 exchange or like-kind properties in the commercial space. Who's going to be reporting? Again, generally the settlement agent is the one responsible to report. And as I mentioned, there's the thing called the cascade. There's different reporting persons that might be responsible. So whoever's responsible of that settlement statement and closing statement will be responsible, and recording will be responsible to report. This is where we need your assistance. Definitely, there's so much on our escrow staff right now with seller impersonation and all the scams that are going on, and the fact that we have to send encrypted emails with wiring instructions and such additional responsibility. Now we are now going to be adding this to our processes. And so what I do ask is be patient, be understanding, be supportive, and know that we are trying to do our best to get through this. This is just one more added thing that they're going to be responsible for. We also need your assistance as we're gathering and collecting that data from your client, which I'll talk about in a minute. Again, all title companies are going to be responsible for this. So if you have an escrow officer out there from another company that says they're not responsible, then they haven't been educated. Because I will tell you, our company spent millions of dollars right now with training and education and trying to get us up to speed and prepared for this. But no, some companies that are smaller may not have the training. So definitely reach out to, our company, and make sure to reach out to Kyle and the team to make sure that we get you up to speed on everything we can assist. Again, attorneys, as I mentioned, will probably be responsible. Now, I will say, we're going to talk about, if someone decides they want to buy as an individual and then transfer into the trust or LLC afterwards, we'll talk about that. But I want to share with you, how are we going to be collecting the information? So I'm going to be very transparent here. FinCEN, with the lawsuit that happened with ALTA and our parent company and a few others, back this last year, on September 28th, when they decided to postpone it to March 1st, we just received what they call the real estate report. It wasn't complete. We couldn't get through the drop down. It wasn't till 3 weeks ago that we got all the information from them to put in our systems. And I will say this, that our company is ready, and we have software that we're going to be using to reach out to your clients to collect this information. It's going to be encrypted. It's going to be secured. And one of the reasons why we were fighting FinCEN on this is because of the privacy issues. It's a prickly subject. There's prickliness to this. People are going to be pushing back and saying, I don't understand why you need this information. So we're going to be sending secured links through our Start in Here, or maybe through our software and other information and some of our software programs, sending that out encrypted to your clients to fill out. So if they don't fill out everything, there is some ramifications to that. But I will say this, our online collection is intuitive. So it responds to answers provided by either skipping the field or expanding, depending on the answers provided. So it will be very intuitive as we send that information in that package out to them. We are starting to collect data officially through our system on February 9th. And we're going to just need your help if we get any pushback or the client doesn't want to fill that information out. So what is the required information? What does that look like? Well, so we have to report the reporting person, which would be the escrow officer, the legal entity and trust, and our trust, and the beneficial owners of the entity or trust. We have to also report the individual signing the documents on behalf of the entity or trust. The transfer or the seller, we're going to have to submit and collect information from. And many people are like, well, I don't understand. Why would they need seller information? Well, what if the seller is part of the money laundering? They're selling their $2 million commercial property, and they're selling it for cash, and they're accepting maybe 1 million instead of 2 million. Where's the other million going? Could that be possibly money laundering? So again, I'll repeat myself as I mentioned, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network is trying to uncover the individuals hiding behind the LLC trusts and entities. That's the whole purpose of all of this. So they're trying to gather that information. So if it's on the seller side or the buyer's cash buyer, they're trying to see who's part of this and who could be involved in any money laundering. The other thing is the type of property that's being transferred, and then the total consideration of the payment. So it could be $0 to $1 billion. There's no limit on the consideration of what they want. Also, the other thing is we ask for your assistance in educating other real estate agents on the other side of the transaction. Because if you're the listing agent or you're the selling agent, what if the other party doesn't know, the other agent doesn't know about this new regulation or the other party? So we kind of need to get the word out. I know quite a few people that, maybe they are out of the country and haven't been going through education, and they may need some updated information on what's going on. So make sure that you talk to the agents on the other side. Hey, are you aware of this? Also, making sure that you've talked to your seller about this, because if they're accepting a cash offer, wherein they're purchasing in the trust LLC or entity, they need to know, hey, just so you know, you're accepting this offer, and this is a reportable action for FinCEN's new regulation of anti-money laundering regulations. So we need to make sure that they've shared that with, or you share that with them. The other thing that has been brought up, I have a lot of clients that in the commercial space and residential that do NDAs. So, if you've got a client that you've signed an NDA, the client wants us to sign an NDA, it doesn't matter who they are. If they're, George Clooney buying a commercial or residential property, we have to report them. It doesn't matter who they are. We will have to report who they are and the individuals that are hiding behind that trust LLC or entity. And again, if the buyer, and this is the one thing I'll share with you, if the buyer says, can I just buy as an individual and then put it into my trust or LLC after? I will make this very, very clear. Our escrow staff and all title and escrow companies have been are now required to not engage, do not do any post-closing documents for anyone. We are not going to be able to, oh, I'm going to create this deed transferring for individual into the LLC and hand it off to you and go take it to the recorder's office. We cannot do that anymore. Because of this new regulation, I'll talk about the ramifications later, but we are not allowed to. But if your commercial client or residential client, whoever you're working with, is wanting to put it into their trust LLC and entity afterwards, whoever does that, if it's a deed service or if it's an attorney, that attorney is going to have to report it because it was part of a transfer. So what they're trying to do is like, hey, we know that you're wanting to put this, but if you're wanting to put it into this trust or LLC or entity, you have to report it. So it was part of a transfer. Again, they're trying to uncover the individuals, and this is their and we're learning more. And I'll be honest, everyone, we're learning every week more and more from FinCEN what again, FinCEN's not in the business of real estate, so we're really trying to kind of pull and gather information. And this could change in the next couple of weeks or months as we get further into it. But for now, this is what we know and what we're going to have to report. So what does this real estate report look like? So this is actually FinCEN's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network's what they call a real estate report. It's public, it's on their website. You can look at it, but it's got 111 data points. So we had to take this report, take the 111 data points and put it in our software so that we were prepared for March 1st. And this is where we are collecting this information starting Monday through our software. And again, it's intuitive. We are, ask some questions. The other question I've gotten is, okay, so what if my client is off the grid or doesn't want to, go through the encrypted link that you guys send? We'll have to do it physical form. It's about this thick. Just kidding. I don't know. It could be about that thick, but it's going to be a lot of paper for them to fill out, but they're going to have to be very forthcoming with their information. So again, this is a copy of what they call their real estate report because they had to come up with something from their side so that we could use into our software and program. So that's what it looks like. It's again 111 data points. Here's the transferee information, persons associated with the transferee, the transferor information, the transferor trust or LLC, the payment information, and payments made on behalf of the trustee entity or trust. So 111 data points. This is information, again, that we just got the final drop downs because these drop downs weren't working when they sent us the original back in September. So we finally got it 3 weeks ago and we can see what these drop downs, what the transferee type is. So again, we are putting all of this together in our systems to collect that information from your client. So when is the report due? I will say this, we cannot close the transaction unless all of the information is collected. FinCEN has made it very clear to all the title companies, escrow, all settlement agents that they will not accept incomplete forms. So how it's going to work, you've got your offer. You're going to be opening escrow with your escrow officer. We're going to start collecting the information, okay? And then if that collection of information is not 100% filled out, we're going to have to go back to the client and say, okay, you need to fill this part out. We also may need your assistance in getting them and guiding them to actually answer the information because, sometimes there's, again, prickliness. They don't want to fill everything out. So they need to fill everything out. So offer, collection of data, When we get everything collected, then we can close. After close, we submit the report. Okay, so we're going to be responsible of being that collector, and that all that information is going to have to be collected, and then we can close, and then we submit the report. Someone mentioned yesterday in the class that I was teaching in California that they were like, "Oh, is there a certification?" There's no certification. This is just we have to gather the information, collect it, close, and then we report that information after. We have to report it within 30 days. So by the end of the month or within 30 days. So that information is going to be sent in through our systems through to FinCEN. Again, we are not the enforcer, we're just the collector. And whatever FinCEN does with that information will be responsible on them. And again, I'm sure if something was an issue, FinCEN will reach out to the client. One of the things that we're a little worried about is performance issues of buyer and seller condition of close. Is the buyer performing, seller performing? Did they fill out the information? Could this be a cause for delay in closings? Are we going to need extensions? Are there going to be earnest money disputes? There's so many things that we're thinking about if they don't fill out this information. So the sooner we get them to fill everything out and collect that information, the sooner we can close. I've had people go, well, do you think we should have, can we do a 10-day close? Well, it kind of depends on the client and getting the information to us. Could we do would we say 45-day? I know in the commercial space, it could be a lot longer, 6 months, whatever. But as long as everybody is working together with our escrow team and making sure that their information is collected, we'll be fine. So what happens if not reported? I had to put the baby on there because it just kind of lightened everything up a little bit, but it is not a light subject. Unfortunately, FinCEN's made it really clear that there's criminal and civil liability for all of us if we are not providing this information to them. So again, all title companies, all escrow, all attorneys, anyone that's part of the cascade, everyone in the real estate transaction, escrow, everyone will be responsible. And of course, the buyers and sellers. And if this is where talking about the doing the post-closing documents and doing any closing documents with your client, we cannot do any accommodation documents anymore because this could be considered structuring or assisting in structuring the transaction to avoid reporting. The other is failure to file a report, material misstatement or omission. If your client's omitting information, they could have a penalty and they could go to jail. I mean, there's the criminal side is scary, the fine and up to 5 years in prison for structuring and assisting in structuring the transaction to avoid reporting. So one thing I will say that I would recommend, if your client says, well, John, can we just do this? Can I just buy this as an individual and then I'll put it in my LLC later. I would recommend from the real estate side, and growing up in the real estate space my whole life, and my parents being realtors, the number one thing is do not give them advice. Do not say, oh yeah, I think you should do that. I would just say, I would recommend you talk to your counsel, your attorney. I really can't give you that information. And neither are we from our side. We are not going to be giving advice or directing them a certain way. They have to make a decision right away. Are they purchasing as individuals? Or are they purchasing in their LLC, trust, or entity? They got to make that decision. So there's no last minute, maybe I need to do it in my LLC. We've got to make a decision at the beginning so this is not painful during the transaction. So the criminal and civil liability is pretty serious. And again, negligence. I mean, just being negligent. So they are pretty, serious, and they've shared with us they're serious if anyone is a part of it. And I don't know if somebody brought this up the other day about fair housing. Sometimes they send those secret shoppers. I'm a little worried that, we got to make sure that we're not talking or saying anything that could be if FinCEN sending people out to see what the companies are saying out there. So definitely just do not give any advice. All right. So one of the questions we have been asked in from a lot of the presentations I've done is, will escrow be possibly charging an additional service fee for this reporting? My understanding is our company is looking at that across the US. We'll be coming out with something. Every state's different, so we have to kind of think about that. But I would be prepared that yes, we probably will be charging an additional service fee for this reporting, and we'll probably be putting it onto the cash buyer who's purchasing in their LLC trust and entity. So we'll keep you posted. I know our team will keep you posted as we get closer to that and we get a decision. So how can you help us educate your clients up front? Go out there and talk to them. If you've got some clients that, if you've got a database of clients that you've worked with and in the past, go out there and talk about this. Send them some links. Hey, I just want you to know about the new anti-money laundering regulations for residential real estate transfers. And yes, this does affect commercial. The only thing it doesn't affect is office, retail, industrial. But if you are purchasing apartment buildings, which I know you do, client, you may want to be aware that this is a new regulation that is going to be required. Also, be calm and collected. I think as we are calmer, we are educated, we know this is not a big deal. Hey, they're already having to submit information to IRS anyway, right? So this is kind of another reporting, but to a different regulatory agency. And then support escrow, be there, help them, give them a heads up if you think your client's a little prickly and they're not real happy about filling out this information. That would be really helpful for us, is just give the escrow officer and whoever you're working with the heads up that, hey, this person's kind of needs more explanation of what's going on and the why. That would be wonderful. And then the next thing is website and information. So I have put together some resources. I do believe the most important thing is getting the education as a real estate professional, and also the escrow. Even the lenders need to know about this, but understanding the why behind it. And when you explain the why, again, they are trying to uncover the individuals who are hiding behind the trust, LLC, and entities that are laundering money. That's all it is. They're trying to uncover those individuals. So FinCEN, you can see this report on and the extension, residential real estate rule, the residential real estate reference materials, and then also the history of anti-money laundering. That was really interesting to kind of see what the history is and the why and what they were founding. The one thing I will say, and this is really important information, is this is not new. It actually has been going on for over a year. It's called the GTO. So the geo-targeting orders have already been required in certain markets. So my understanding, they did it in San Diego. They've been doing it in certain areas like that have high organized crime. Florida, I think they had some in the Bronx. There's certain areas where drug trafficking, human trafficking, and organized crime is high. So they've already done this. It's already been reported. Now they're just saying every transaction now in the United States, all 50 states will have to be reported. So I think they're probably the reason why. I think is the GTO. The GTOs have probably said, oh, they're finding out that they're getting information through these geo-targeting orders already. So they're going to go forward with this. So I know this is personal and private information, but again, this is not a title company thing. This is absolutely the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network putting this on us as responsible parties to report. So I'm going to open it up to questions. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. And I say, okay, if anyone has a question, please, what about the land? I mentioned land earlier. So again, if you have a client that is purchasing land and their intent is to build homes or a home or homes on that property, they will have to report. Okay. So if they're buying vacant land and, they're going to just put, cows and horses and everything, and it's going to be agricultural, that's one thing. Or maybe they're going to put a winery on it, that's different. But if there's going to be humans and families and people living on that property, either eventually they need to be forthcoming and report that. Okay. Our follow-up, let's see here. Please, what about RV parks? Yes, I would say yes. Are there people, it's probably vacant land, right? Because I know RV parks, I'm an RVer. You can lease a pad or something like that, but is it vacant land? And then they're going to be improving it to put an RV park on there. Yes, that probably will need to be reported. Um, Fractional ownerships reportable, yes. Yes, there is. And actually in the real estate report, in the FAQ, it actually identifies and talks about any specific ownerships and fractional percentages. So those people that are part of those organizations that have a percentage of it will need to be reported. How do we know if we'll have the certification of them to tell us upfront that protects us from not knowing what their future intent is? No, Lucille, that's a good question. Um, I don't know. So all we know right now from FinCEN, they're telling us what we need to report, those 111 data points. We're going to gather that information and then we close the transaction, knowing that that's all filled out. Then we're going to submit a report to FinCEN. What they do on that, there's nothing we can do about it. And again, if your client is omitting information, that's on them because FinCEN will figure it out, right? But all we know is that, we gathered the information, we did our job. Now they have to do theirs, right? So that's kind of the key. Right. Any other questions on the chat? Has this been helpful, everyone? What do you think? Give me some input. Yes, very helpful, Tara. Thank you. Are people responsible to self-report if they do a bargain sale deed on their own and record it on their own? If they're paying cash and it's a transfer, yes, probably. I mean, again, if they're purchasing as an LLC trust and entity and it's a transfer, they will, or the persons that are reporting it, or the person's recording it maybe. I talked to our local county recorder. She didn't even know about it. And Kyle, I don't know if you guys have a relationship with your local county recorder, but we need to do some training with them to know that because they were not aware. Attorneys are not aware. We've gotten a lot of people, not aware of this regulation, which could possibly be a problem. If they're purchasing bare land to build their own home, is that reportable? Yes. Again, if it's a home they're going to build or homes, multiple, it needs to be reported. If we have a developer that we work with often and they're purchasing, do they have to fill out this every time? Yes, they have to fill out it each time because every transaction that FinCEN wants, it's its own transaction, right? So each time your developer is going to be purchasing land, we're going to have to report. And we can't use whatever we saved because in the past we've saved their information and then we plop it in there. No, every time we're going to have to put that in. Because I think the thing to think about is, again, they're trying to uncover the individuals that are hiding behind the LLC trust and entity. What if there's an individual that's been added? See, that's where they're saying, okay, who's being added to this LLC or this entity now, right? So that's the whole purpose of it. And I put a question on the Q&A, but didn't hear it answered. What about commercial property with mixed use? Yes. If you have a cash buyer who is purchasing in their LLC trust or entity, and they're purchasing mixed use where it has a commercial and residential piece to it, yes, it will need to be reported. Just think about this. The only thing that is excluded and exempt is if it's office, retail, or industrial. But if you have a mixed use where there's a retail, but maybe someone's living above the retail space, it's going to have to be reported. Because we see a lot of that where, you've got the retail and then you've got residential, somebody's living above it, or maybe there's a back room or there's a piece. Yes, if they're purchasing that and that's part of that transfer, they will, so far what we know, it will be reported. And if a builder purchases under one entity and then sells with another, would that be reportable? We will not, this is not about selling, it's about the buyer. We report the seller only if there's a cash buyer purchasing in their LLC or entity. So if your builder decides they're going to sell, uh, they may be reportable if they're accepting a cash buyer purchasing in an LLC or trust or entity. But if they're just selling it to another developer, maybe, or something else, it's really, this is all about the cash buyer purchasing in their LLC, trust, or entity. It's not about the seller. Only seller comes in is if they're accepting that cash buyer purchasing in their LLC, trust, or entity. And then if 4 more units are residential, it sounds like the transaction. If no, don't get things mixed up with the units, okay? Because that's one of the questions I've had a lot. Is there people living in the property? Are there families, 1 to 4 families? We're not talking about 1 to 4 single, 1 to 4 units. Families, people. Are there people living in the property, on the property? Yes, they are reportable. Okay, so the unit side, I completely understand where you're coming from on the unit side, but it could be triplex, duplex, fourplex, 5 or more, 5 to 9 apartment complex. It could be apartment building where there's, again, it's 10 or more units. That's reportable. Okay. Again, the only thing exempt is office, retail, and industrial because people are not living on the property. Okay. In Bend, you can now build manufacture in the commercial zones. FYI, may be interesting if someone says they're will build commercial, but then changes later. If they change later, then they're probably going to have to be reported, but I don't know. I mean, that'll be interesting to see. And then how are we to document what the intent of the use is for bare land sale? So my understanding is if through our system, it's going to be asking the question, what's the intent? And it's really going to be on the client being honest. I mean, you guys, we're not the enforcers. All we can say is that is the intent. Are you going to be building a home on it? But let me say this. If they say in a conversation with an escrow officer, oh yeah, we're going to build a house on it. And then they say in their in the reporting and collection, no, they're not going to build any residential. As a reporting person, we may be subject to having to be honest and say, I think you need to change that collection of information, or it could be reportable. And that's a concern because we do get information, but if you're aware of something, this is where we need your assistance as a professional. Talk to the client and say, you have to be forthcoming. This is collection of data. They are wanting everybody to be truthful on this. Again, title companies, escrow is not going to be enforcing this. FinCEN's enforcing it. All we're doing is collecting it and sending it in. But in my heart, and as being moral, ethical, and legal, if I do know and aware of something, that's a tough one. That's really tough. Any other questions?
Hey, Aaron, if someone's owned their home for years and then moves it into the trust or wholly owned LLC for no consideration, does that need to be reported?
Nope. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're only talking about, again, cash buyers purchasing in their trust LLC or entity. However, I will say this, if you've got a client that has been living in their home 20+ years, they probably have equity or generational wealth in their family, right? So they've got equity in their property. They're going to be, hey, you know what? We're going to take the equity out and pay cash and buy or sell this property and buy 2 other properties. And if they are going to take that equity or they own their house free and clear and they're going to sell it and they're purchasing cash and they want to purchase it in their LLC, trust, or entity, we will have to report it.
Okay. You may have answered this earlier. So if a buyer finances the purchase for $850K but puts down a certain amount of cash, like 150,000, would that be reportable in any way? It's just as long as there's financing involved, no reporting needed.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But it has to be recorded, lienable, report, I mean, we would, if, again, if you're getting, maybe an, you know, some mass credit line or something like that, but there's no lien against the property, then we would have to report it. So there's a lot of banks that do that. They'll just give you a mass credit line or something like that. So, but yeah, if you're going through an institutional lender, then you're exempt. It's not a problem. But again, the clients have to make a decision. What are they doing? They're paying cash. Are they paying cash in their LLC, trust, or entity? Or are they getting a loan? And that's where some of the lenders need to be knowledgeable about this new regulation too, because of that switch, right?
Last question I see, during a cash transaction to an individual, why not require in writing that the client has no intention to move ownership under an entity?
I don't know. That's a good question. Where's that in the chat bar?
It's in the Q&A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think maybe take a snapshot of that, Kyle, and
Okay.
send that to me,
Sure.
and then we can get back to you on it. Yeah. See, and I'll be honest, everyone. I mean, I don't know everything, but I know enough to get myself in trouble. Just kidding. But it is a very fluid situation for us. There is no one out there that knows exactly what FinCEN's going to do or not do, or what we're gathering this information with little bits. Our attorneys have been working with FinCEN trying to go, okay, what about this? What about that? We've been wanting and needing more clarification. And so just know that this is a very fluid situation and that it could be ever changing. And maybe in a month, Kyle's going to reach out to me and say, okay, I need you to do another one because it's changed again. It could happen. I mean, because again, FinCEN's not in the business of real estate. So we're trying to educate them. Hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? And then our escrow settlement team is trying to define all of this. And so I think the number one thing to take away from all of this is just all of us work together, ask the questions, and then we'll hopefully get the answers we need as we get down the road.
Awesome.
I think we're good. It says buyer finances individually and then transfer to LLC. Okay, we answered that one. So buyer finances individually and then transfer to the LLC. Will the county recorder deed, or will they have to now use an attorney? So if a buyer purchases the property and they're going through an institutional lender, we will not have to report. If the client is purchasing as individuals and then after they want to put it into their trust or LLC or entity, they will have to do it on their own, and the title companies will not be allowed to do that anymore. So we are not able to do any post-closing documents any longer, and or accommodations. It has to be on them, okay, on everything. So this is just really sensitive because of the criminal and civil liability side. We have to really be abiding by these new regulations. How would we know if a lender reports under SARS? They're obligated, required. It's on them. I don't know if there's any way to track that, but that's the responsibility that they have. Just like our responsibility is going to be collecting the data and then reporting it after, right? So kind of on them. Yeah.
Great. Well,
Great
thank you.
questions.
Thank you, Aaron. I think that's all I see so far. Just as you guys know, so tomorrow I'll be sending out your certificates for CE credit, as well as a follow-up with some of the attachments that Aaron had gone over with her presentation. I'll send you some FAQs, as well as just a quick fact sheet so that can help you understand the conversations you need to have with your clients. Oh, here's one more, Aaron. Seller carry transactions are reportable if a buyer is an LLC entity or trust.
So if you're cash buyers purchasing in their LLC trust or entity and getting seller financing or private financing, they will have to be reported.
Okay, perfect.
Because again, it's, you know, what they're looking for is people helping, seller helping, private financing done, you know, that is not reported and is not, you know, through an institutional lender that's going to be doing through the SARS report.
Okay,
And it
awesome.
says, thank you, Erin, so very much. You explained this so well. I'm so glad. I am trying. You know, I think like a real estate agent, and I try and put it in because we can talk our escrow and title way, right, Kyle? But kind of bringing it into the world of real estate, I try to do, and this is kind of my way, and however I can help in the future. And thank you, Kyle, and you guys' team at Western Title and Escrow. We appreciate you. And I'll be doing more, it looks like. So
Yeah, and if anybody has anybody that missed this class and wanted to join on, we're doing another one next week on the 12th between 2 and 3 p.m. So be on the lookout for those emails and invites as well.
thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you, Aaron.
Kyle. All right. Take care.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.